And greetings. Welcome to the Evidence and Reasons for the Christian Faith video channel. Please let me know in the chat if you're able to hear me. That would be very helpful as I'm kind of learning my way around the Streamlabs system. So let's see if I can, apologies for that. So I'm still trying to learn how to navigate with Streamlabs. So the topic of today is not our usual, oh, thank you for the feedback, guys. The topic for today is not our usually irregularly scheduled programming, but something that's going on at my local church, McLean Bible Church. I've said this is a $500 million empire, and that's really not too much of an exaggeration if we look at the assets that they have on the order of perhaps $200 million and then revenue over the next 15 years, if their books are honest, of maybe 300 million. So this is like a $500 million empire. Whoever is at the top of this empire holds a lot of power and influence and money. And it's just almost unfathomable that a church, a Christian church, could be controlling that much power and money and influence. But here in the Washington, D.C. area, it is an affluent area, historically one of the #1 counties in the United States as far as affluence. And wow, Pilgrim Progressing says he's still a member, but haven't been there since before COVID. So this can, this is why this, it may seem strange that there are all these lawsuits and a lot going on there at McLean Bible Church. And it's like, why are there lawsuits and stuff? It's because it's a very big organization. If there's somewhere like just a congregation of 20 people, it's like, it's so easy to split if there wasn't communal property. And all these other considerations. But when a church gets to this size, things start to get very heated and there becomes a big power struggle. Like I said, for a church of size 20, you could just split, you could just leave. It's not that big a deal. You don't need to get the courts involved and lawyers on both sides, clash of the titans. I'm estimating already $300,000 of congregational money has been spent by David Platt on Platt & Company on their legal defense, and they're losing. And it looks like they're continuing to lose. And it seems now they're trying to have some congregational maneuvers to try to settle out of court. If a jury trial happens, I estimate this could be a total of $1 million at least in legal fees. How did I get my $300,000 estimate? There was a congregational meeting, informational meeting, in March of this year, and Larry Cooper said, yeah, we overran our budget by about $400,000. The exact figure was $392,000, I think. And he said the overwhelming majority of that was for legal fees related to litigation. So this is a lot of money here and a lot of power. So if people are trying to grasp what's all this hoopla about, I'm just trying to say, you run a $500 million empire, and people are on top and they want to stay on top, you can expect some pretty big fights. And so this has gone to Fairfax County Circuit Court. In case that name sounds familiar, just in passing, I need to mention this. This is the same Fairfax County Court where Johnny Depp and Amber Heard are having their fight. So now we're having our fight here in Fairfax County Court. So I had a few things that I need to point out what's going on in the church. Just to give an idea of how dysfunctional this church has become under Platt & Company's leadership. His second in command, Mike Kelsey, is a preacher. Let me share something about what he had to say about a couple years ago. I was the guy that broke the story on the internet, and I paid the price for telling the truth and revealing it to the world. I felt what Mike Kelsey said, kind of, um, while he's not in the pulpit, um, sources revealed to me and caught him saying this. So let me see if I could share this. One moment. Forgive me. I have to. There is some problem with the way this Streamlabs handles videos, and let me get to that. This is just a little obnoxious, and I need to kind of rehearse. But given that, given all that's going on, I really didn't have time to kind of make a more polished show, because there's going to be a congregational meeting, which I'll cover in just 6 days. So let me just share some of this in the meantime. So here we go. See if I could get it going again. All right, let's see.
It's difficult for me sometimes not to just torch like all white people, because in particularly white evangelicals and Christians,
let me play it again.
It's difficult for me sometimes not to just torch like all white people, because in particularly white evangelicals and Christians,
Let me play it again.
it's difficult for me sometimes not to just torch like all white people, because in particularly white evangelicals and Christians,
All right, guys. Come on, guys. Let's not fight right now. Some very godly men voted for David Platt, including Lon Solomon, and a lot of the elders who ended up regretting their votes. So let's try to get along here. All right. So you heard what Mike Kelsey said, and really, that's not the coolest thing to say. Okay, that's not an attitude that you would want in a in like the second in command preacher. And I broke that story, and I paid the price for it. And so I'm just going to cover what's going on. So let me see if I could find. I have this. I put it in the video description what Platt is saying. Let me see if I can actually get a. All right, I have to do this. Wow, this is a little bit painful trying to get all of this working. Streamlabs is very powerful, but it can be unwieldy. So I'm going to try to do a window capture here and see if I could find. I'm going to just highlight what the McLean Bible site has had to say, by the McLean website. So, all right, there it is. Special congregational meeting. Let me try to make this a little bigger so you could see it. It says here, okay, this is announcing, this is what David Platt said, and the elders, this is the announcement they made. We are facing a significant moment as a church family. We have an opportunity to move forward together as a thriving, united church, bringing hope to the nations. beginning right here in Metro Washington, D.C. Okay, I got to call something out immediately. He says this is a thriving church. David, Platt and elders, can you even state once one sentence, one of your opening sentence without kind of twisting the truth? Let me show a graph here. This is somewhat humorous. This is a little satire video, but it's based on the attendance numbers. So let me see if I could find it here. Let's see. Oh boy, I'm having this is really annoying. Streamlabs is really messing up everything that I just pre-prepared. It was all nice and set up to entertain you all, and then at the moment that I had it all set up, it just falls apart right during a live stream. So let me see if I can get this going. Nonetheless, I think you might be entertained. This is a satire graph, but it tells the sad plight of McLean Bible Church. It's the attendance history. So enjoy. Plight of McLean Bible Church is the attendance history. So I mean, I can hardly think that you could describe McLean Bible Church right now as a what were his words, a thriving church. I'm sorry to be laughing. I know that's so irreverent, but um, the amount of spin that's going on. We have an opportunity to move forward as a thriving, united church. No, this church is divided. It's split. Um, I don't see any healing coming. Um, any healing coming to pass anytime soon. And so he says, as some of you may remember, 5 individuals filed a lawsuit against our church contesting our election of elders last summer. While we are grateful this conflict is no longer part of daily church life for most people at MBC. The conflict continues to cause harm, and resolution is needed in accord with God's word for the glory of his name and the good of his church. As elders, lead pastors, location pastors, and central ministry directors, we want to take steps toward healing in our church. This has the ring of spin. They had many opportunities to resolve this, but goodness, now that the leadership has lost 3 rounds in court and now they're facing depositions, subpoenas, and a jury trial. Suddenly they seem to be so eager to try to bring healing to the church. And as the numbers you could see were just declining, now they want to bring healing and resolution. So let me see if I have this here. I hope Streamlabs hasn't totally messed up. Okay, this is the Prince William County campus. I put little colored squares there to help me count the number of people there. I use these counts to generate the graph that you saw of the drastic attendance drop. This used to be a packed out auditorium at Prince William. McLean has 5 campuses. And let's see what else there is. The empty parking lots at Tyson's Corner. And we used to have a parking ministry because the parking lots were so full. They were so packed. We needed attendants there directing traffic, but you could see it's really empty. This was Tyson's Corner at 5 p.m. where they brought in the Arlington campus. So this is like really bad because the Arlington campus at this time was doing some renovations, and so they needed a temporary home, but there are only 120 people in attendance there. That is teeny tiny. And I had pictures of like empty classrooms. I don't know where they ended up. But suffice to say, this is not a good situation. So they're asking for healing now, and they're trying to look like they're also good and benevolent, and but really the truth is they're facing depositions, subpoenas, in a jury trial. I don't know. Maybe that suddenly inspired just a lot of brotherly love and seeking of reconciliation in the face of a jury trial. Now, the plaintiffs aren't asking for any financial remedies. They're not asking for money. They're asking for a revote. And so, excuse me, I'm having peeling in my lips. So in this revote, now David Platt says, well, we're going to vote on whether we're going to revote. And they're trying to kind of appease this and try to pretend they're going to settle this out of court. So I'm going to cover some of the legal documents. Bible Believer asks, how serious are the charges? Okay, there are no criminal charges yet. There are civil charges of breach of contract. Okay, so like if you have a small breach of contract and the only thing you are asking is to do a revote, it's like, why do you have to spend $300,000 of congregational money not to have a revote? Unless maybe you're rigging the elections and you want to stay in power. But let's say they had a revote and they even overturned this, or the prospects of overturning the votes, the elections, is almost guaranteed. Should the plaintiffs continue? And I would say yes, because the issue really isn't the revote only. The revote's one thing, but these depositions and subpoenas could show unethical, possibly corrupt behavior. The original complaint in Fairfax County Court was on 2 counts: 1, breach of contract, and 2, civil fraud. The judge ruled in favor that the count of breach of contract can move to jury trial. He did not rule in favor of the count of fraud, but it's so nonetheless, it's still going to trial, but the count of fraud had been dropped. Had been essentially dropped. I mean, there are legal terms for this regarding something called sustaining a demurrer or whatever by the defendants, legalese. But when it goes to trial, all they have to do is revote. But right now, the remedy being sought is a court-appointed officer will handle the vote, not David Platt, not Holland and Knight. Holland and Knight is the law firm representing David Platt and Company. By the way, Holland and Knight was the same law firm that did the counts for the vote on July 18th and June 30th. You talk about a conflict of interest there. That's pretty bad. So they want a revote, but it's done properly, plus some other things. But you see, I can't confirm this. I got the impression that, and again, this is unconfirmed, that Platt and Company were asking that all the subpoenaed documents and depositions will not be made public. You see, that's the sort of thing you do when you've got something really bad to hide. I just got to point that out. And so the lawsuit may be about a revote, but I think the fundamental thing, the fundamental victory is finally getting the record straight. Have there been dirty dealings being done? Things that are ethical? Has there, and I'm going to read some of the stuff that's going on, and I can confirm some of it because I've been a victim. So let me bring up some legal documents. There is a new website being constructed. It's still under construction. You can peruse it though, just to find some stuff. So 70% of the website is still under construction, but most of it, the legal documents are there. So let me bring up basically the lawsuit. It's called the Second Amended Complaint. It's the very first document. If you go to the restoremclean.com and go to the legal issues. So let me see if I could share this here. All right, so this is the legal document. It was filed on behalf of Steve Gaskins, Michael Manfredi, Roland Smith, Kevin Ewell, Adam Gintit. I actually don't know the individuals that well. Not all of them. Some of them are starting to, I do interact with them, and Steve Gaskins is a very respected member. All right, so this is the complaint, and I'm just going to scroll down here. All right, so I bring your attention to line 70. The actions of the board have undermined the independence of the vote and intimidated and coerced voters with possible loss of their livelihoods for voting the wrong way. Now let me explain what this is about. This is about the fact that many of the church staff, around 100, maybe more, paid, they're also often kind of informally required to be members of McLean Bible. So that way they get recruited to do volunteer work, quote unquote, on the weekend. So they're basically working 7 days a week for the church. 5 days that are paid, 2 days that are you've been volunteered for. And being members, they vote. They had a ballot that was not secret. Their names had to be put on the ballot, and it would be in evidence whether they voted for or against. The people who counted this and who had access to the ballots would know then if the staff members were voting against the current leadership. Now, you know that could subject them to reprisals, and it'd be hard to prove. But, this looks really shady, that they were demanding they know who's voting against them. And it wouldn't surprise me in the depositions if they started to ask under oath, hey, Platt & Company, did you read who voted against you? Did you start to keep lists and start to target people, including your own staff? I mean, these are really like kind of uncomfortable questions to answer under oath. And, you start to isolate all the witnesses together. And if they start to conflict, you're going to start to smell something. All right. So this is one part of the problem. The next thing, other congregation members also likely face severe repercussions at the hands of the board if they dare to vote. If they dare to vote in a way unapproved by the board, up to and including being publicly dismissed from church fellowship, as there is no provision for congregational override of arbitrary dismissals of members by the board on the basis of their voting choice. And I can speak to this. So they talked about serious repercussions. I was threatened with arrest and jail. I was pulled out in the middle of a worship service, the 9 a.m. service, October 3rd, at the Loudoun campus. I was not causing any trouble. I just walked into the sanctuary. I was going to count quietly, in the most undisruptive way I could be, to do that. And I tried to discreetly take photographs of the empty seats as a matter of record. And, I did not want to cause any problems for my brothers and sisters there worshiping the Lord. Next thing I knew, armed security came and fetched me out of there, threatened me with arrest and jail if I ever come back. So, all right, that's showing the love of Christ. I was never told, never approached by anyone saying that I had been doing anything wrong. And it says, according to the New Testament, we have the right to bring elders, if there are charges against them, to bring it before the congregation. I've been denied that right. And then letters were sent to the congregation, not naming me specifically, but everyone knew who it was, trashing my reputation, saying I was working against the church. That is not true. I see a incompetent leadership that has crushed 80% of what took 55 years to build. And I think that leadership needs to go. They have demonstrated they are not competent, and they have shown a lot of reasons to suspect that they are doing some shady deals. And I've covered that in other videos on this channel. But this is in this legal complaint, and I've lived through parts of this. And if that wasn't enough, 2 months later, they threatened a Christian wife and mother in front of her children with the same deal. This time they did manage to drag her into court. Thank God the judge dismissed it. Christian wife and mother, they took McLean's armed security and sicked the security on her. Some of the volunteer security force, I have heard, were so disgusted at that action they quit on the spot. They thought that was just immoral. It was an immoral use, and God bless him if that really is true that you quit because David Platt and Company asked you to do something like that, to threaten a Christian wife and mother in front of her kids when she was causing no harm whatsoever to anyone. Yeah. good on you for quitting. And I'm hearing there are more and more departures from the first responder security team at McLean because they see all these threats going on. You know, it's terrible in an opening of a congregational meeting. I encourage you to go to restoremclean.com and look under threats. And you'll hear there the director of security threatening people with arrest if they speak out in the middle of a congregational meeting. I should point out, under customary Robert's rules, parliamentarian procedures, people can shout out for points of order. They have the right and privilege to do so in the middle of a congregational meeting, but instead they have threatened these people with arrest. They have armed security there to enforce it, both McLean security and then the Fairfax County Police, to be recruited to do kind of the dirty work on behalf of the leadership. And this is unconscionable, and it's reprehensible. It's in violation of the spirit of the sacred contract known as the McLean Bible Constitution. So this is supposed to be a church that is quote unquote congregational. It is not a dictatorship. It is a congregational church that can elect and remove leaders. And this has become a Soviet-style dictatorship where you dissent, you can be threatened. You can be threatened with armed security, threatened with jail and arrest. And so is it any surprise? Word gets around of how people are being treated there. People just don't want to go to a church like that if they find out about this stuff. So let's get back to, let me see if I could find it. I think I had that capstone report and then I lost it. The link to the meeting. I think I've lost it, guys. I'm sorry. So I had the legal document. So why don't I go to the fraud count? But this is not the end of it. There could be more lawsuits on the way because according to the McLean Constitution, every member has the right to audit the books. We've been stonewalled trying to audit the books. We don't know where the money's going. We don't know where it's coming from. We don't know if money's being laundered, and some people have had suspicions of this. Also, government money has been involved. The payroll protection program, if that money has been misappropriated, that's a felony. That's a felony. Guys, elders, some of you guys, you elders don't get paid for this, to do this job. Do you want to be associated with maybe some felony counts of misappropriating federal funds? If I were you guys, you have families to protect. Even if you're found innocent, do you want to go through do you want to deal with some overzealous federal prosecutor that wants to go after someone for fraud? I mean, is it worth it? The McLean Bible website have said, well, we've tried to reconcile, we've tried to contact. That's also spin. They said they've tried to meet with, the opposing side. I want to say, I've invited them to meet with me, but I will not meet them where there's 12 of them. I have to go on their property and they have armed security there and they can, kind of make me feel uncomfortable. And there's no recording. They'll have their version of what was said and I'll have mine. And I said, that is unacceptable. You want to meet? I invite you to meet in a public recorded forum. I want you to be on record as to the answers to the questions I have to pose. Why is it that you're so scared to be on record, be caught on record saying things? So I'll ask innocent questions. You said that our church is having an opportunity to be a thriving church. Look at the attendance numbers. Do you think the leadership is competent given what's happened? Simple questions like that. I mean, I could ask a bunch. Do you guys want to go on record and say that and then have depositions filed? It's just not going to look real good when you're under oath and it doesn't look like what you say under oath matches up with what you tell me publicly. So, some of us are onto the game of pretending you really want to talk. And when really I think the strategy is to kind of suppress and silence and hide. That's my feeling. I could be wrong, but that's how I feel about the conduct that's going on. And so let me then bring up some more things here. I'm sorry. Get this activated here. Sorry. This is a really long document. Right, so count 1, breach of contract. And then count number 2, fraud. So the judge allowed breach of contract to be ruled on and fraud not. But this is still pretty incriminating the way the attorney put this together. So you can look at these documents and like I said, this, David Platt's trying to say, oh, we're just really wanting to reconcile. And some people are thinking it's like, yeah, right. Do you really want to reconcile? Or is this, I mean, I really, I wonder if they're going to ask in the deposition, David Platt, you said you're really wanting to reconcile. Were you motivated by the fact you might be facing a jury trial? Would you have tried to reconcile if you were not under threat of a jury trial? Where the documents and the depositions are going to be seen publicly. I mean, would this not make you look like too honest? Or everything you represent yourself to be on Sunday morning? Would it paint a picture of someone who is not too wholesome? I'm just pointing that out. So, we can do an out-of-court settlement here. An out-of-court settlement would be you come forward with, the offer to let us audit the books, to look through all the relevant documents to see if you've cut any dirty deals. We'd like to look at your emails and to see if you've been doing surveillance on your congregation. I found out some disturbing facts that they were tracking me. They were keeping dossiers on who I talked to in church. Yeah. Do you want to come forward and admit and confirm that? Do you want to be caught, kind of fabricating evidence to charge like that wife and mother with some sort of crime? I mean, this is not going to look too good, I mean, what can I say? What is at stake here is not just a revote. We can have a revote, but the truth has to come out first so voters can actually decide for themselves. Obviously, I'm pretty biased about what's going on, given what they did to me and to others, and what I see that they continue to do. And but let the truth come out. And I tell you what, if this lawsuit succeeds, I think there could be the risk of even more lawsuits to open the books, and who knows what else they're going to uncover. The leadership has been in bed, so to speak, with organizations like the North American Mission Board, which is in the middle of another lawsuit that went all the way to the Supreme Court for financial corruption and abuse of power. And they are a known entity to have um, misappropriated millions of dollars. And then there's the Southern Baptist Convention that also has corruption in it. So have I even mentioned much in the way of doctrinal issues? Yes, that is part of it. But, you know, McLean Bible is trying to characterize this as being a doctrinal dispute. But at issue is finances, transparency, and breaches of contract. And as I pointed out, in the plaintiff's attorney had considered it also fraud, even though the judge is not granting that. So let me see if I could find the capstone, and then we'll maybe wrap it up here. I'm going to maybe play the, while I look for this, why don't I go ahead and play, let me see, I'll play the that video one more time while I look for what I'm looking for here. Let me see if I get the right, okay. Here we go. I'm just going to play this video again, guys. Sorry. Thank you, 20 July 1944. I'm sorry about that. You could see I'm having problems with the controls. That's why if I have shows like this, it's great to have a co-host who can run all the controls. But let's see if I got the right thing now. Thank you guys for your forbearance. So we covered that David Platt's announcing that they've suddenly got this just love to try to reconcile and make happy and kiss and make up, and he fails to say that they're losing court cases. I think That's what I call spin. It's like, we really want to just reconcile and move forward. Um, they could tell the truth and say they're facing a jury trial with depositions and subpoenas that might uncover things that are very unflattering of his behavior. I think that would be much more truthful, but it has to be spun because they're trying to garner as many votes as they can for this congregational vote, which is actually, it may be all moot anyway, because if the lawsuit is won, everything that has happened since July 18th could be considered illegitimate. And as I've looked at the court filings, that is one of the remedies being asked for, that it will nullify some of the actions after the July 18th vote, because the leadership is basically an illegitimate government of the church. So let me point out something here. While we respect differences of opinion on the church, we believe, according to God's word in 1 Corinthians 6, 1 through 9, that these matters should not be handled in a secular court of law. May I point out the utter hypocrisy here? We believe these matters should not be handled in a secular court of law, and you're dragging a Christian mother and wife. You take your armed security and threaten her. Then you enlist Fairfax County police officers to issue a summons. You drag her into court and request the judge fine her and throw her in jail. And yet you are saying, we believe, according to God's word in 1 Corinthians 6, 1 through 9, that these matters should not be handled in a secular court of law. The irony and the hypocrisy here is, you will make those claims when it suits you, but when it doesn't, you'll take armed security and threaten Christian wives and mothers in front of their children, enlist secular police officers, try to put her on trial, try to throw her in jail, and try to fine her. So I'm just pointing out the double standard here. So, this lawsuit isn't just about the revote. This lawsuit is to get subpoenas, documents revealed, and depositions, witness testimony. I mean, I can expect some people to be subpoenaed that are, like, say, the staff, and they may be asked what they'd seen, and they're not under any gag order anymore. I don't know if the court orders will supersede non-disclosure agreements, because the McLean leadership has ensured that people who leave are under a gag order. If they saw all sorts of illegal activities there are limits on what they can say. And I don't know if the depositions are going to be the discovery process is going to penetrate through that. I'm not a lawyer. And whether then their testimony will be, immune from reprisals regarding the non-disclosure agreement. So this is going to be very interesting, that there have been gag orders on these people. Again, they're threatened with money. Some of them have retirements, some of them have health insurance benefits, etc. And who knows what other reprisals could be inflicted on them if they start to tell the truth. And maybe this lawsuit will give them some immunity to have the freedom to tell the truth. So that's mostly what I had on my mind. And I thank all the viewers for the forbearance with all my numerous technical issues. I did not have time to make a really polished presentation today because of the urgency of the matters at hand. I expect that the plaintiffs, and I can't really speak for them formally, but I expect that all these moves by Platt to reconcile, they're going to be ignored. They're going to be ignored, even if Platt offers a revote. Nothing less with them coming forward in releasing the documents themselves, making apologies for the things that they've said that were not true, and there are numerous examples of that. I mean, they have their version of events. You know, I'm not accusing them necessarily of lying, but you know, they may have their view of reality, and a lot of us don't see it that way. I mean, gave you an example right there. They're talking about a thriving church, and I'm just like, I just laugh. This is a dying church, not a thriving church. So let me see here. I'm gonna see if I'm gonna close with maybe something a little more uplifting. See if I could find it here. And I don't know why. Again, I'm having so many problems with stuff I'd queued up, and I can't seem to run it. But anyway, I've had a great time hanging out with you all, and I'm going to close with, I just happen to love this New Zealand national anthem for some reason. It's God Defend New Zealand. It starts in the New Zealand native tongue, and then it finishes in English. So with that, thank you all for joining me this afternoon. Take care, and God bless you.